During a department presentation, my team lead cut me off, laughing, "Maybe let the adults handle the big conversations, sweetheart." The room went uncomfortably quiet as he grinned and said, "She means well, but let's be real." I waited until he finished his grandstanding, then pulled up his metrics on the big screen, showing he hadn't completed a single major project without my help. He couldn't even look me in the eye as he was pulled into an emergency meeting. All right. So this happened about 6 months ago, and honestly, I'm still kind of shaking from how fast everything unraveled after. I work at a mid-sized tech company based in Des Moines, Iowa. I've been here for almost 6 years now, started as a junior systems analyst, worked my way up to senior. I don't have some fancy title, but I know my work, and I do it well. People in other departments come to me when things are falling apart because I know how to untangle messes and get things back on track. Enter Rick. Rick was hired as our new team lead about 1.5 years ago. I was on the interview panel. I remember voting no on hiring him, but I was outvoted. They said he had vision. I said he had a LinkedIn full of buzzwords and not much else. Day 1, he called me kiddo. I let it slide. Week 2, he interrupted a stand-up to explain my own project back to me, badly. A month in, he started taking credit for my timelines and estimates in meetings with upper management. I documented everything. I made sure every project plan I touched had my name on it. Every email was saved. Every meeting had notes. I even screen recorded a few Zoom calls just in case things got worse. They did. Rick had a way of talking over the women on the team. I wasn't the only one who noticed it. My coworker Tanisha, who works in QA, started texting me during meetings like, "Did he really just call you princess? Or he just said your idea was good after repeating it in his words." Still, I kept my head down. HR didn't care. I even brought it up during a check-in with our department head, but he brushed it off as Rick just having a direct style. No. Rick had a douchebag style. There's a difference. Anyway, I was the one doing the actual work. He'd pop into Slack once a day, ask dumb questions, then disappear. When we finally rolled out a massive cloud migration project, which, by the way, I led, he presented it to leadership like he personally carried the whole thing across the finish line. I let that go too. But I stopped helping him behind the scenes. No more fixing his sloppy status reports. No more making slides for him. I even started copying our VP on a few project updates, just subtle things to show where the work was actually coming from. Then came the quarterly department presentation. We do these every 3 months, where each team gives a recap of what they've done. It's kind of a big deal, and this one had more people than usual, even our COO was sitting in. Rick told me I could throw something together for our team's part. No. I made a full presentation. Charts, performance metrics, before and after comparisons, all clean, all based on real numbers. We get to the day of the presentation. Room's packed. I'm standing at the front, walking through our team's slides. I'm maybe 2 minutes in when Rick cuts me off. Loud. Confident. Like he rehearsed it. "Maybe let the adults handle the big conversations, sweetheart." Yes. That exact sentence. He actually called me sweetheart in front of the whole room. I just stood there. I saw a few people look down. Someone in the back shifted awkwardly. The tension hit the air like a thick wall. And then he smiled. "She means well," he added. "But let's be real, I'm the one steering the ship." I didn't even look at him. I just turned back to the laptop, exited the slide deck, and opened a browser window. I pulled up our team's internal performance dashboard. We use a tool that logs all contributions, task completions, commit histories, project ownership. Everything is tied to user accounts and visible to leadership. I searched his name. Filtered the last 12 months. Then mine. Put the two side by side on the big screen. The numbers didn't lie. He hadn't led a single project on his own. On most of them, I was listed as primary contributor. He had maybe 4 or 5 minor tickets closed in the past quarter. I had over 40. I didn't say a word. I just clicked through each major project and let the metrics speak. The room was dead quiet. Rick stepped forward and said, "Well, it's not a competition, right?" Still no one laughed. No one even smiled. Our VP looked pissed. He was pulled out of the room about 10 minutes later. Some HR rep came in and whispered something to him. They called it an urgent matter. He left with his laptop and didn't come back that day. That was a Thursday. He was on leave the next week. Then HR sent an email saying he had resigned to pursue other opportunities. But the story didn't stop there. Because I found out why he resigned. And I'm telling you, it goes way deeper than just being a sexist jerk at a presentation. After Rick resigned, the office felt different. Calmer. Lighter. But people were still whispering. Something was off. I figured it was just the shock of what happened in that meeting, but then our security guy, Tim, quietly came to my desk 2 days later and asked if I had a minute. He never talks to anyone unless there's a real issue. I followed him to a small side office, and he shut the door. "You didn't hear this from me," he said. "But you might want to check your access logs." My stomach dropped. Why? Just check them. Last week. Right before the presentation. So I did. I went back to my desk, logged into our admin panel, and checked my account activity. Sure enough, 2 days before the meeting, there was a remote login on my account from an IP that wasn't mine, a VPN IP that had been flagged before. It happened around midnight on a Tuesday. I don't work at midnight. And I sure as hell don't use a VPN. Whoever logged in tried to access one of our shared drives. Specifically, the folder with project documentation. The one I used to track contributions and internal notes. They didn't change anything, but they tried to open at least 6 files that had detailed project histories. Files that had my name all over them. I went cold. Someone had tried to dig through my records. After hours. Using my own account. I reported it straight to IT. They flagged it. Less than 2 hours later, our VP called me into his office. Apparently, this wasn't the first time Rick had done something shady. After I pulled up those metrics in the meeting, someone in senior leadership got curious. They ran a full audit on Rick's account. What they found? He'd been logging in as other employees. Using saved passwords he somehow got his hands on. He'd been quietly deleting and moving files to make it look like he had contributed more than he actually had. Little changes. Renaming documents. Replacing slide decks with ones that had his name added. Deleting version histories. He even created a few fake Jira tickets under other people's names and closed them himself. All of it was buried deep. The only reason they caught it was because of my presentation. It made leadership start asking questions. They looped in IT, and suddenly everything started falling apart. But it got worse. One of the women from marketing, Natalie, came to me a few days later. She asked if she could talk privately. She looked shaken. She told me that Rick had messaged her late at night a few months back, using his personal email. He said he liked how she looked in meetings and that she had a calming presence. He made it sound like a compliment, but it clearly wasn't. When she didn't respond, he backed off. But she saved the messages. Turns out, Natalie wasn't the only one. By the end of the month, 4 different women had come forward. HR launched a formal investigation. His resignation? That wasn't voluntary. They let him quit before they started contacting legal. Now here's where it twisted again. I thought I was done with him. I really did. But one morning, I got an email. It was from an unknown Gmail address. Subject line, "Hope you're happy." The body just said, "Thought we were a team." I lost everything. Don't act like you didn't plan this. No name. No signature. But I knew it was Rick. I forwarded it to HR. They said they'd look into it, but the reply I got didn't seem like they were taking it seriously. So I set up a filter and ignored it. Until I found out he wasn't done messing with me. 2 weeks later, I went to apply for a lateral transfer to a different department, a role I'd been eyeing for months. I had the experience, the record, and the support of the team there. I didn't get it. When I asked why, the hiring manager looked confused. He said, "Your old manager told us you were being investigated for misconduct. Said you mishandled internal data." My stomach hit the floor. That manager? Rick. He had planted the seed before he left. Sent out emails to other managers claiming I had acted out of turn and violated protocol by displaying internal logs during the presentation. He made it sound like I hacked into restricted files. Like I had staged the whole thing. It was a lie, one I could prove. But it had already been sent out to people who didn't know the full story. Now I wasn't just cleaning up Rick's mess. I was cleaning up my own name. And I was done being polite about it. I spent that entire night digging through every single email, chat log, dashboard access, and version control log I had. I wasn't just angry. I was focused. If Rick thought he could twist this into some smear campaign, I was going to bury him with receipts. By the next morning, I had a 43-page PDF. Timestamped logs, Slack conversations, emails, project assignments, and even screenshots from our performance system. I included a section at the end with the altered records he'd created and the real ones I had backed up on my personal drive. That might have technically bent some rules, but I didn't care anymore. I scheduled a meeting directly with our VP and the director of IT. No middlemen. No HR. I printed 3 copies and walked into that meeting like I was walking into court. I laid the packet on the table. "This is what I've been dealing with," I said. "This is what he's still doing." They didn't even argue. The VP flipped through a few pages, got to the section about the fake misconduct emails, and just shook his head. "This explains a lot," he muttered. Apparently, Rick had CC'd him on those emails but later asked him to ignore them, claiming it was a misunderstanding. The VP hadn't thought much of it, until now. That should have been the end of it, right? No. Because 3 days later, I got another email. This time from Rick's wife. Yes, his wife. She found my LinkedIn somehow and used the contact info on there. The message wasn't angry. It was desperate. She wrote, "I know this is out of line, but I'm reaching out because Rick hasn't told me the truth about why he left his job. He said someone on his team turned on him. Said it was personal. Said you made things up. I found some things on his old work laptop he brought home. Emails. Files with your name. Please, can you tell me what happened? I need to know if he's lying again." Again. That one word stood out. I didn't answer at first. But then I thought about all the damage he'd done. To my reputation. To other women at work. And now I realized he was probably doing the same thing at home. So I responded. Carefully. Professionally. I attached the public version of the report I'd made for my company, the one with no sensitive internal data. I made sure to explain that this wasn't personal. That I wasn't out for blood. That Rick had been caught doing what he did, and I was just the person who finally said enough. 2 days later, she replied. She left him. Apparently, this wasn't the first time he'd sabotaged a woman's career. In his last job, he'd gotten into a dispute with a female coworker, but smoothed it over with some hush money from HR. His wife had believed him when he said the woman was unstable. Now she didn't. She thanked me for telling the truth. And then she said something I'll never forget. He thought he was smarter than everyone. But people like you, the quiet ones who actually do the work, are the ones who see everything. You didn't just end his job. You ended the game he's been playing for years. I thought that was it. That it was finally done. But I was wrong. Because Rick was about to pull one last stunt, one that went way beyond work. And this time, he was going to involve lawyers. And me? I was ready. Rick didn't take the fall quietly. Of course he didn't. 3 weeks after his wife left him, I got served with legal papers at my front door. A civil lawsuit. Defamation. Emotional distress. Career sabotage. He was suing me. I remember just standing there, holding the envelope, feeling like my body had turned to stone. The neighbor across the street was mowing his lawn, completely unaware that my world had just tilted. I sat down at my kitchen table, read every word of the complaint, and my hands started shaking. He really did it. He was blaming me for his downfall, said I had a personal vendetta, that I fabricated documents, that I publicly humiliated him with falsified evidence. He wanted damages. He wanted an apology. He wanted silence. But instead of panic, I felt something else settle into my chest. Resolve. I called my old college friend, Dana. She's a lawyer, a damn good one. And I hadn't seen her since we grabbed lunch in Cedar Rapids 3 years ago. I told her everything. Every detail. I sent her all the documents, including the stuff I had forwarded to HR. She didn't hesitate. I'll take the case, she said. And I'm not just going to defend you. I'm going to countersue. What followed was 4 months of preparation. Depositions. Paperwork. Subpoenas. Rick didn't realize what he'd stepped into. Every lie he'd told at our company? Documented. Every login he faked? Tracked. Every woman he made uncomfortable? They were ready to talk. Even his ex-wife agreed to testify, not just about the way he twisted things at home, but about the stolen work laptop and the files she found. She gave a statement. She handed over emails he never deleted. Messages where he admitted to rewriting history before someone like Janelle gets ahead of me. That sentence sealed his fate. When we got to court, his lawyer tried to spin it. Said Rick was under stress, that I'd humiliated him in public, that I'd gone beyond professional boundaries. But the judge wasn't buying it. Especially not after Dana played the recording. See, what Rick didn't know was that our company had recorded the entire quarterly meeting, start to finish. Including the part where he called me sweetheart and claimed he was steering the ship. The courtroom went silent when the judge watched it. Then we played the part where I calmly pulled up the dashboard. No yelling. No showboating. Just facts. The judge looked over the top of his glasses and asked Rick's lawyer, "This is the emotional attack your client's referring to?" They had nothing. Rick lost. Hard. The judge dismissed his case with prejudice, which means he can't try again. And our counter-lawsuit? We won. Big. He had to pay for my legal fees, plus damages for trying to ruin my reputation. But that wasn't the best part. The best part came after the ruling. See, during the trial, our IT department had uncovered everything Rick had tried to bury. Enough that our company's legal team submitted a separate complaint to the Iowa Board of Ethics for workplace misconduct. Rick lost his ability to work in the tech field in any corporate leadership position. Blacklisted. The companies he applied to after the lawsuit? They pulled his interviews the second they ran background checks. And remember Natalie? The woman from marketing? She got promoted. She runs her own team now. The ones who stayed quiet before? They saw what happened and started speaking up. Policies at our company changed. HR training. Reporting procedures. Everything. As for me? That transfer I was blocked from? I got it. Turns out the manager I originally applied to work under saw the court transcript and reached out personally. You're exactly the kind of person we want leading projects. I took the role. Got a raise. Built my own team. And every time someone calls me sweetheart now? They say it with respect. Because I made it clear, I wasn't the problem. I was the one keeping the problems in check. And Rick? Last I heard, he's working in a phone store in Kansas City. Commission only. Selling phone cases and pretending he used to be big in tech. Some people crash and burn. He dug his own grave and tried to drag me in with him. But I didn't just survive. I stood on the ashes and built better. And I never looked back.